So this part of Isaiah, as I said yesterday, is being given to people who are living in exile. So they're living in the midst of a country called Babylon. For the Jewish people, this was incredibly hard. They lost their land. The city of Jerusalem had been destroyed. The temple had been destroyed. And here they are surrounded by the worship of foreign gods. And you can almost picture them walking through the streets of Babylon, which was the greatest city on the planet. And there were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. There were these great temples to the Babylonian gods. A god called Marduk would have been worshipped there in a really major way. And if you're a little Israelite living in that place and your country's been destroyed and your God seems to have had his temple destroyed, you would doubt God. You would think maybe he's abandoned us, or maybe he's been defeated by the Babylonian gods. And so Isaiah comes at this point with this message of hope and this message of salvation. But in order to help people trust and believe in God, he presents God as almost like having a face-off with the idols. And a lot of what we're going to see in this particular part of Isaiah is God saying to the idols, come on then, idols, you think you can handle me? You think you can do anything? Let's see if you can do anything at all. He talks about how you have to nail your idol to the ground to make sure it doesn't fall over. What sort of image of power is that? In verse 21, it talks about present your case. Tell us, you idols, what is going to happen. Tell us what anything. So do something, good or bad. Just do something so that we might know you have power. It's God challenging the idols of these other nations. And there are other parts of this that just are incredible. The bit in from verse 17 to 20, chapter 41, where it talks about the poor and needy search for water, but there is none. And then God declares, I am going to bring water in the desert. I am going to bring water is going to spring up from the ground. Rivers are going to flow on barren heights. There's going to be deserts that turn into pools of water, parched ground into springs. I will put a desert almost exploding with this vegetation, and this life is going to come into being. And I'm going to do that. And there's loads and loads of imagery in here that we don't have time to go into. Basically, the point is this: God can bring salvation, and nothing and no one else can. It doesn't matter whether your idol is the Babylonian god Marduk that you've made out of wood and gold and you've nailed to a platform, or whether your idol is simply something like money or celebrity or a diet that we're kind of seeing as the source of our salvation, or whether it's a person, a relationship that we have as we look to. No one but God can bring salvation. And not only can God bring salvation, but he can bring it out of the bleakest, darkest, driest place. He can open the eyes of the blind and break people out of the dungeons that they find themselves trapped in. This is the God that you and I worship today. And ultimately, the way he does it is through Jesus Christ. And Jesus is described in Isaiah on more than one occasion. And in chapter 42, which you can have a little look at again, we meet the first of what's called the servant songs, the first of 4 servant songs, and it describes how Jesus is going to come, God's servant, and he's going to bring justice to our world. God, look to him for salvation, and you'll find a salvation like nothing else.